Hello, everyone. Today we're talking about things that we may leave behind in the classroom post-COVID. Jacob, this year has brought along many challenges, and we experimented, many of us, in the classroom. And as we did it, as we were online, I don't know your experience, but it's probably similar to mine in that. Did you think back at some point and say, wait a minute, I don't do this anymore because I can't? And I kind of think it's good. I'm not missing this thing, this item,
Mhm,
physical item, or this strategy I used to do.
mhm.
Did you have that same experience?
For sure. Obviously, when people ask about did teaching change or how did it change, I'd say it's two different things. Online distant learning is not the same as being there with the kids. However, of course, there's some things you're still teaching and all that, but there's so many differences, so many nuances to what we do online and also what we do in person. So, yeah.
So let's play a little bit of a game, maybe, where I might just ask you, what do you think is going to be left behind?
Hmm.
And why?
Okay.
And then I'll counter with mine, one of mine.
Okay.
We'll go back and forth. I pick three, you pick three. We don't
Sure.
know each other's lists. Maybe
I
we have
try to
something
get
on the
some,
same
I
list.
try to get some ideas from you, but nope, you're not having it. So yeah.
No. So you first, Jacob. What may we leave behind?
You know what? The first one I would say is textbooks. Um, every kid, at least in my school, I think most schools had a laptop. It was funny before COVID-19. We're always struggling to get laptops to the kids and making sure there's carts for certain rooms, and we're always ordering. But once COVID hits, all of a sudden we had everyone had laptops, right? And I think it's because our mission changed, our ideas changed regarding what has to happen, and every kid had to have a laptop. So we made sure that happened. And so now we find out that every kid now has electronic textbooks. Everything's on that computer. And so I can't see us going back to physical books. I mean, if we do, it just doesn't make sense because you could have so much on that laptop, and it holds so much information, and not even it doesn't even have to hold it. You could there's links right to the
Yeah.
textbook. And so I just can't see why that would be something we would do. I mean, we might, but I don't think that's the smart play. But so that's my first.
That's a bold answer. I didn't think of that.
Mhm.
I thought of it sort of in the terms of novels and short stories because I was doing the novel thing.
Mm.
Every novel I looked up had a PDF version. I was able to share whatever thing, but you mentioned textbooks, and there might be some teachers out there who don't like that answer, but why go back when you can replicate everything
Yeah,
online? We did it for a year.
yeah, and all that paper. I mean, think about it, if you really want to save the
The
environment,
environment. How
which I
about
think we do.
lugging it around
Yeah,
into the lockers?
hurt your back. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So good answer.
Thank you.
Here's my answer.
Oh,
How about pen and paper?
oh,
You
yeah,
know,
you don't
the
know.
first year I taught
Hmm.
at the school I'm at now, um, I was doing journals that you could submit online, but I
Hmm.
also did writing. I used to purchase lined paper, and I remember handing it to each student.
Hmm.
My TA would help me, or students would pass them out, and they'd bring out a pen and they would answer journals.
Hmm.
Now, why bother with Google Docs, with Google Forms, where you could answer journals in a Google form? Click, 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 type, type, type. Blogs. They could answer journals in blogs,
Yeah.
which I've introduced to students. They all have a blog. They go public with the blogs. Students, people from other states and countries have commented on my student blogs.
Wow.
And it makes paper and pen look a little bit Flintstonian, if you know what I mean.
I think it
What are
goes
your
for
thoughts?
all homework assignments, right? I mean, like I can't see collecting work anymore, like physical paper.
Mm-mm.
Like just
No.
upload it onto to the platform, right? Whatever platform you're using at your school, and I'll grade it that way. and it's much more efficient. I don't have to, you get that argument of, oh, I gave it to you, mister, and you must have lost it. No, that game isn't played anymore. At least it's not played that way anymore. Kids are
Jake,
pretty smart.
thank you for bringing that up,
Hmm.
because I have not heard that statement in years now. Because
Yeah.
I've been doing Google Classroom for 2 or 3 years now, where they don't turn it in physically,
Right.
and now, yeah. So I haven't heard it in 2 or 3 years. Isn't that nice
Yeah,
to not hear
for
that
sure.
anymore? You lost my work.
Yeah. It's always you lost it, right? I'm like,
Yes.
what? Wait, how did I lose it?
And then, but in the back of your mind, you're thinking it's possible.
Yeah.
I might have lost this kid's work. He might have put it there,
I
or she
always
might
think
have.
that. I go, ugh. But I don't let them know
Maybe,
that. But yeah.
yeah, yeah. There's always this doubt.
Have you ever found have you ever found like a piece of work like years later, like among something? I go, oh, maybe she was right. That has happened like once or twice. I find old pieces of work and
I I always I
ouch.
always try to give a student a few more points,
Okay,
like 5 more
very smart.
points than normal, because of to account for stuff like that.
Yeah, I hate to
Because
admit
you're
that,
right,
but
human error is real.
yeah.
Okay, what's your next thing?
I would say this is gonna sound strange, and I don't mean it in a. Well, let me just tell you what it is. Breakfast in the classroom. Now, this was brought to our school. I don't think all schools do it, but um, where we would have to get this paperwork and make sure the kids had the breakfasts, and then certain items go back to maybe to the cafeteria, and you have to account for all the meals. And I remember when this was first brought up to the teachers at our school, they're saying, "Oh, this is going to be great." I said, "Okay." And I'm not against. The point is, I'm not against students eating. I want them to eat. That's great that we have that. Why do I have to be that person to be distributing meals? What they've been doing since is been giving meals early in the day, or even being on campus now. The students come onto the cafeteria, they pick up their breakfast, they eat outside, and they come in. I go, wow, why can't we do that? So I don't see why we would ever have food in the classroom again, because of that, maybe that fear of having all that food and people. I just don't. I know that sounds strange, but it can be done differently. And remember, teachers, we do quite a bit of paperwork. People think that it's not that one item that distresses me. It's a number of items that we have to do during the day. That's just another piece that is put on the plate where that already has a full plate. And so if we could take those items, I know I think people might be seeing this and thinking, wow, he's against breakfast. No, I'm totally for it. It's just I don't like the way it's been done in the past, and the way they're doing it right now at my school, because of COVID. I think we should keep it that way, where they eat their breakfast before they come in
This
class.
this is one of those moments where I'm just listening to you, and I don't have an idea of what you're talking about. I can only nod my head and go,
You guys
okay.
don't do
I
that
don't.
at your school, breakfast in
Not
the
at all.
classroom?
No. So I
Okay,
don't know
well,
how to add to it.
do they eat breakfast? Do your school feeds them breakfast at all in any way? Do they provide
Yes.
that?
Yes.
But you have nothing to do with it.
No. So,
See, I
man,
mean, that's the way it should be. I think it's
it's
my
funny. You're
opinion.
you're you're taking me a year and a half back, and so I'm thinking about it. So I arrive early on campus, and sometimes I'll get
Mhm.
food. I'll get
Little
the
burrito.
same thing I get all the time, which is some eggs and some bacon, because that's how I roll.
Nice. That's
A little cup of
nice.
coffee,
Little
and
protein
then I
meal.
noticed that breakfast is being served and
Okay.
on that student area there, and
Hmm.
they'll eat, but it's before school. That's it.
That's the way it should be. But anyway, where I
Okay.
work and other schools, they don't do that. So
Okay. So you and I are reviewing a movie later on this week where a teacher is writing on a chalkboard. And actually, when I first started teaching, there were chalkboards, uh, but
yeah, I remember that.
briefly, like not even as actually no, that's not true. Not as a teacher, as a TA, there were chalkboards. When I was a teacher, they already brought in whiteboards. But I will say, goodbye whiteboards, which is interesting because we just installed brand new whiteboards around our campus, and that's a big deal because our campus is huge.
Yeah.
Every single class has had a new whiteboard of maybe a year before shutdown.
Wow. Good.
And but why? Why write anything in the middle of class when you could have everything done already on Screencastify by shooting a video prior to your class. You could just show it to them. You could put it on stream. You could just click, show it to them. And by doing that, you're an extra eye in the class.
Hmm.
So if you either post something on stream that you want them to see, you just click and you're another eye in the class to watch them take notes, as opposed to turning your back or even to the side writing things. I don't see myself writing much on a whiteboard anymore, except maybe an agenda. But why even do that if you've put the agenda on Google Classroom? So whiteboard and markers, bye-bye.
Wow. Yeah, that's
So
that
why
is.
do you notice the connection? I don't have a whiteboard behind me.
Yeah, I do.
You asked me, he asked me before, Ruben, aren't you going to put a whiteboard behind you? And I go, nope.
You're really taking it. Yeah, there you go. You're walking the walk, talking the talk. No, yeah, I think that's interesting. I have to process what you just said regarding no boards, because I've been complaining for years. I had a small little whiteboard in my room. I've been asking for a bigger one for years. Now I'm thinking I just want to win that fight. Can I just have that board? Then I'll stop griping and then I won't use it. But no, that's cool. I like the idea of not having to turn your back on the kids ever, just so you can have walking around and seeing what they're up to and helping them out. So that makes sense. All right, I like that.
Okay, your turn.
So this is my last one, right?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Meetings. Why do we have to have them? I don't want to have them at all, but why do we have to have them in person? Now, okay, maybe a couple a year, but we don't need to have them in person anymore. And plus all that traveling, and sometimes I've had to go on campus on the weekends and Saturdays to do workshops or special meetings. I'm like, I don't have to drive down there anymore. I could just put myself on Zoom and let's get going. I mean, I just feel like meetings should totally change. And now I'm not really into Zoom meetings, but I'm just not into meetings at all. But I'd rather have a Zoom meeting than an in person. That's just me. But I feel like that should change. I'm not sure if it's going to change, but I would like that. I would like to see that change. So that's my third.
I thought you were saying do away with meetings altogether, which
No,
I would have.
No, but I'm kind of for that, but that's not ever going to happen because some people just really like to meet and sometimes have like icebreakers for half the time. And I'm not exaggerating. So
no, that's it. That's what they like. Well,
it's
true.
I don't get it.
So that's an intriguing thing. The idea of saving time and gas by being online with meetings. But what about professional development meetings?
Even those. Why do you have to be in person? Why do you have to be in person for those? I mean, I guess the only time
you would just sit in your class or
class or yeah. Why do I have to? Unless we needed to get together for have to see something physical, or why do I have to do that? Maybe I think more things get more done quicker when you're online because you have to. You don't have to. You're not goofing around. You're not talking to other people because teachers are the worst listeners. When they're together. At least when you're on a Zoom, you kind of have to pay attention more. And especially if you shut off the chat, we can't chat with each other. So I just feel like it's more effective, more efficient if you do it that way. I don't know. I think this is kind of a debatable one because I think some people like to see each other, and I'm okay with my department. I'm okay with seeing my department because, I'm probably closer to those people in the school than other departments. Although, every so often it's nice to see the whole group, but I don't know. I'm just kind of done with meetings.
Yeah. Okay.
My feeling.
It's definitely food for thought. There's a book by Peter Drucker called The Effective Executive, where he argues for no more meetings, that great leaders don't have meetings because if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, why meet? Everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing. So if you can make that kind of commitment to the team, I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do, then we won't meet. There's something to that.
I love it. I love it. No, I do. I'm for it.
So, yeah. Let's go to the last one.
For you.
For me, I have a question mark at the end. And it's more of a question because I don't even know, but I have a feeling that there's some truth to it. And that is the end of behavioral issues. So what I mean by that is that, of course, I'm not talking about 100% gone, there'll always be behavioral problems to some extent whenever you have people gathering, and but you can reduce a lot. And I think we've reduced a lot being online, but we could carry a lot of that over. This is what I mean. Whenever you have a behavioral issue with the student in a class, it's usually revolving around a student wanting to avoid something
Mm.
or a student wanting something. So let's start with something they want to avoid. They want to avoid the work. There might be some particular work they want to avoid.
Mm.
But now that we've been online, and we've worked with kids in a very more one-on-one or small group breakout session, or we can deal with them, and see what their needs are. Maybe we can work with them in a more individualized way, where if they're trying to avoid something, we can address maybe their lack, maybe their misunderstanding. And so more individualized attention can solve that issue. Smaller class size is another thing
Yes.
that can happen within the bigger classroom. Meaning, those breakout sessions that we do can be carried over into the classroom
Sure.
and have our small group sessions. I think the age of teacher in front of the class talking to a big, wide group of students is kind of going the way of the dinosaur, because this is a student who wants something. Now we're talking about a student who wants something. Attention. The class clown. He's got an audience. But now we're going to take his audience away. We're putting him in a group of 4 or 5. We're working together. And what I do, this is something that I was doing even
Mm.
before the shutdown, is that I was breaking them into 4s and at the most 5, and then putting a TA and another support staff and me in another group. And if there's another group who doesn't have that, I'll pick one student who's a very strong student who can lead the discussion. And then I will go from group to group and make sure they're answering the questions.
Mm.
They're all contributing. It's not perfect, but it addresses students who are at deficits, students who have behavioral problems. Because remember, the behavioral problem isn't a kid who just wants to raise hell. He's looking for something, he wants something, or he's trying to avoid it.
Sure.
And I think those are some supports where a lot of the behavioral issues will slowly go away. Just like a lot of the things we mentioned today, perhaps will go away.
I hope so. That's a good one. I hope that one that's the case. I mean, I think they used to call them they used to call cooperative groups, I think, or something like that. I can't remember the name. Back in the day
Yeah.
when I first started teaching,
You
it
know,
was called co-op.
in terms of, if you want to know, maybe we should do a video. I should do a video on this. I The semester before we broke into shutdown mode, and even a year before, I had started breaking up these groups into, this group is reading Life of Pi. This group is reading Lord of the Flies. This group is reading Ender's Game. That group is, October Sky.
Interesting.
And it was flying. I didn't have any behavioral issues or very little. At the most, it would be a kid just not totally focused, but then I would come into that group. And so I could see in a history class, it might be something similar where they all each get a different article.
Yeah.
And then when it's time to teach, it's not you teaching except to facilitate some kind of bigger question.
Sure.
Where they take that template and each team teaches the class. Everybody has a role on the team.
Mm-hmm.
And so if somebody fails, everybody gets affected. So that peer support really goes a long way. Hey, come on. If you let us down, they're letting the whole team down. You got to step up. And it really goes back to the idea of behavioral problems, this kid wanting to avoid it, but now they get peer support and encouragement, and you praise them for what they do. That's well. So
I'm smiling because I'm thinking education's funny, because I think this idea is not a new idea. It just isn't an idea that's not being practiced very, in many places, but I remember this being talked about 25 years ago, 28 years ago. You know what I'm saying? And then now it's coming back a little fresher, a little, because now we could use technology too. But that's really cool. I like that. Very good.
Very nice. Tell us what you think, everybody. Tell us what you think is going away post-COVID in the classroom. And thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.